that we're trying to decide where we'd like to go. So many choices this morning. I'm Tessa Hopkinson, and it's so wonderful to be sitting in front of you this morning and sharing this time with you. We have a wonderful group of people who have agreed to share their stories. I think in some of the conversations we've had through adult studies and in the sermons that David has preached, and even in the very act of forming groups here at church, one of the things that we're so aware of is how important our stories are to each other, to forming community and to changing our world. So I'm hoping this morning that in listening to the stories of each person sitting here, that you will feel reflective, transformed, and in some way different when you walk out. Because what we want to do is to enable the dialogue that talks about what it means for each of us, to say that we affirm someone, that we are affirmed, that we welcome someone, that we are welcomed, and to really think about those words in the fullest sense of their meaning, to affirm, to make someone feel that who you are is acceptable, to be affirmed. Who I am is acceptable. To welcome, to say that here you can be whoever you are, and we welcome that. To be welcomed, to feel that where you are is a second home, or your only home, or the place that you are the most comfortable being who you are and being yourself. So we begin this morning first by listening to a story from our very own favorite, Mr. Stewart Hayter.
Thanks very much, Tessa. You did chop off the first about 3 pages of my presentation, 3 inches of my presentation. Anyway, as Tessa said, my name is Stewart Hayter. You likely, good part of you know. I've been in this congregation now since 1984. I've had a good faith journey here, and I'll do more about that later. But I am concerned about diversity and how it has affected me as a Christian over these many, many years. And I think if you look at the congregation, your fellows, are we really a diverse congregation? Are we really a welcoming congregation? Do we open our arms to anyone who walks in the door? So if you give that some thought, I'll get back shortly to those words. Now, my faith journey started when my family, my parents, my 2 sisters, and myself moved from London, Ontario, up to and took over the family farm about 50 miles north of London. A mile down the road was a crossroads, and on that crossroads was a church. And that church was Goshen United Church. Now, the thing was that my parents weren't, if you'll pardon, church people, but they thought that the children should go to Sunday school. So Dad religiously every Sunday morning would drive us to church, go home, an hour later come back and pick us up. But we went to church. And for me, that was the beginning of my faith journey. It had begun by looking up on the wall in Sunday school and seeing that glorious picture of Christ, who was a nice white guy with curly long hair sort of waved out at the bottom, and a nice, I think a robe of some kind, white, but everything was white. And certainly in that community, everything was white, except the farmers. When you look down from the choir, I sang in the choir for a bit, looked down into the congregation, and you saw the guys sitting there in their black suits, white shirts, ties, tan bottom, white foreheads. Just stood right out, and a lot of the gals came to church with their hat then I was in the Young People's Union, and it was lovely. My parents, however, when I was 16, decided that grade 8 wasn't sufficient, so I was still with some usable vision, was dispatched to the Ontario School for the Blind in Brantford. Well, that was a change in my journey, because at that particular facility, on Sunday morning, you lined up to go to church. Catholics, Anglicans, and Uniteds. I don't know what they did with the Baptists, I can't remember. They had to be there somewhere. And we marched down Grand Ave to Grand Avenue United Church. We didn't go in the front door, no. We went to the side, in the side door, and they had a nice little area for the blind. Needless to say, I found that a tad distressing. I believe that the congregation felt that they were doing good works, and and having the blind kids from the school there. However, after about 2 years of that, one Sunday I decided that was enough. I came to a corner where it angled back toward the school. I turned, went back to the school. After they came back from church, I was threatened. I stood my ground, and I never did go back to church whilst I was at the school. Then we're moving on diversity, and I didn't consider that too diverse a situation. It was segregation. However, I then got a job in Toronto, and being a good farm boy in the big city, I found a bit at loss, and just 2 houses over was Fairlawn United Church. So I took myself the first Sunday I was there, and off to Fairlawn. First, after that service, no contact. I walked out. The minister was at the door, shook my hand, said it was lovely having you, but his handshake was sort of like a wet halibut. It didn't indicate too much warmth, and I left. Well, soul searching, I went back the next Sunday, same action, no congregation. The person contacted me, and I decided at that point that was it for church, and I really didn't go to church from that point on for about 24 years, except for funerals and weddings. I came to Brandon, and what happened, I was a lion, and Jay Smale was a lion, and at one meeting, Sharon was talking to Beth, because we had a bit of a problem. Our daughter, Shannon, had been invited to attend one of the more littlest congregations in town. We weren't overly happy with the material she was bringing home, so Sharon mentioned this to Beth. About a week later, and I should mention too that back at Goshen United Church, our minister was the Reverend Pitt, and he was dark. I never saw him out of a black suit, black shirt, white collar, and black hat. That was his attire. However, a week after Sharon talked to Beth, the doorbell rang. We went to the door, and here's this gentleman in, he had a sport shirt on, shorts, sandals, and sunglasses. We invited him in, finding it was Terry Shillington,